to the Home Yoga Practice Source podcast, where yoga is a practice and practice is everything. I'm Christine, founder of Healing Yoga and the Home Yoga Practice Workshop, but most of all, longtime home yoga practitioner. I'm a yoga guide, and I'll be talking today with the learned and accomplished Sonia Masocco, teacher and practitioner of multifaceted healing modalities, including herbalism and Ayurveda, trained at the Ayurvedic Institute when it was here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She began her studies in Hong Kong and is an International Therapy Examination Council qualified practitioner in aromatherapy, reflexology, and massage therapy, including clinical aromatherapy and herbology, a National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy professional member, American Herbalist Guild member, Association of Ayurvedic Professionals of North America member. She further studied at the Ayurvedic Gurukula program in Pune, India. After teaching for close to 10 years at the Ayurvedic Institute and the University of New Mexico, she currently teaches worldwide, mentors new and upcoming practitioners, and facilitates product development here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're here in her beautiful shop. Welcome, Sonia.
Well, thank you for having me, Christine. I'm just so thrilled to be here.
We met via a colleague also in Ayurveda. And from the moment I walked into your shop, I was just in blissland.
Well, it's hard not to be in blissland with all the herbs saying hi.
Yes.
So it's really, what we try to do is have not only Ayurvedic herbs, but also Western herbs. And actually I facilitate, between the University of New Mexico and also at the Ayurvedic Institute, like an understanding of the Ayurvedic take on Western herbs, because not everything is for everybody. So there are going to be heating herbs, cooling herbs, herbs that are going to be more bitter, herbs that are going to be sweeter. So this will have eventually an effect on stool, on elimination, on urine, but also maybe on estrogen, or, so there's so many possibilities. But I do like to work with Ayurvedic practitioners because basically they have the time to go through each individual's intake and see and kind of find out if there's going to be a problem by using this herb. Because many times people don't know and might be just relying on a commercial or an infomercial and just buying things and saying, oh, it wasn't successful. But maybe it wasn't successful because your constitution or your problem wasn't the right match. And every plant actually has an energy. Everything has a specific frequency, and there's an exact match for you. And we just need to figure out which one it is.
I love this. There's an exact match for you.
Yes.
And it's a plant.
It's a plant. But it could be the plant. It could also be the energetic of that plant in an essence. So, it doesn't have to be material. So we call this material dose.
Okay.
And the essences are kind of considered like a homeopathic dose. But sometimes you might need even a stronger dose, like an essential oil blend. Or sometimes you might need it to be pre-digested and have it in a tincture form. So we have all of those forms of medicine in here in the apothecary.
It's an impressive place. If you're ever in, or if you live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, visit.
You're welcome to visit.
But I wanted to back up. Sonia started her healing journey after a long and what I can only imagine was a kind of high stress career at an Italian fashion brand.
Yes. And I actually, almost everybody knows United Colors of Benetton.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And they never know it's like where it's from. It's from Treviso, the place I grew up in.
Oh my gosh.
And Treviso at the time, there were not very many people that spoke English and French and Spanish, so I got hired easily, just fresh out of school.
So multilingual as well.
And then I just started traveling with that company in different places around the world and got very sick. And I didn't know at the time Ayurveda or anything else. And it was terrible. But then I did find gracefully some really good, actually some very good doctors one of which actually encouraged me to actually meditate. And I was like, this is like very incredible. But my French doctor was like, Sonia, you could actually meditate your fibroid away instead of us doing a hysterectomy. And it's like,
your French MD?
My French MD, yes.
Wow.
So, and I must say, when I was living in Hong Kong, I did have a plethora of different types of practitioners. And I must say, everything changed with yoga.
Oh my gosh. So yoga was at the beginning of your journey.
Yoga was at the beginning of my journey. Actually, in Hong Kong at the time, there were not very many yoga studios. I mean, this was back like in the 90s, right? So
when there weren't, if you weren't alive then or looking for yoga,
it was hard to find.
Yes, there wasn't one on every corner.
But a friend of mine actually, his wife was a yoga teacher, and she had just moved to Hong Kong, and I wanted to discover yoga, so I actually hired her as my private yoga teacher.
Wow.
At the house, and actually that changed everything. Between that and, I must say, reading Deepak Chopra at the time, that changed everything. And then I actually got to meet Deepak Chopra. He's the one and ended up recommending I come to study here in Albuquerque.
Oh my gosh.
And so, it just became like a moving, rolling ball, but it all started with that awareness that what I was doing was not it. It was just like clear that there was something beyond. So I'm really grateful for a home yoga practice, because it's like that really gets you in touch with your true self.
That is amazing. I have so many questions and so many places I want to go with that. Your home yoga practice, you worked with a teacher, but she she wasn't there with you every day when you practiced it, right?
Oh, no. So Chiara Quarantelli, she's an Italian lady, and basically, she would, help me with the movement. We would always finish in Shavasana. And there would be like a guided meditation practice with that. And then she would only give me like 3 things to do every day until the next time that we would meet. And but in her way, she would always say, please don't do this just for the art of doing it. Do this with awareness. Do this and sit. After you do it, you sit. And it was interesting, because it's like, when I was not used to sitting, I was like always on the go.
Right.
So the idea of, taking the time and sitting was like a new concept. So I decided, well, in order to do this, I have to wake up a little bit earlier. That way it's not going to be encroaching on my regular, run. Right. And so I just started a habit of waking up like half an hour early. 45 minutes early, an hour earlier. It's like they always say, the more you have to do, the more you actually need to meditate to get through with it. But actually, I do find that waking up earlier before that rajas of the day happens is very important. And so having the time to be still, and the time to be grateful, and the time to breathe and connect. And then every day can be different. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day. It's never the same thing every day. Some days it might be the same thing for 3 days in a row or 5 days in a row. But then, it's like, okay, this time it needs to be different. And I could feel it. I could feel it in my body, and I feel how different it needs to be.
And that's a training in listening to your body.
That's a training in listening to the body, but it's also kind of a learning that I've actually by studying Ayurveda, yoga as a sister science. So actually, actually having gone to the Ayurvedic Institute, I had a great teacher. There's Ayur yoga there. So you're basically moving according to your dosha. But then there was also Sri Bhaskaranda. She was from the Alandi Ashram up in New York. Mm-hmm. And she was much into the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and just like the meditation and then the kind of forced chanting and but all of that. And then I must say, mantra forced chanting and whatever, there's like this thing of japa, there's this thing of repetition where the repetition does not allow your mind to go anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Well, this is an important concept because in my view, it's like, it doesn't matter. A lot of people were also reluctant at the time to do these japas with these Sanskrit things. It's like, what am I saying? I'm Jewish, I'm Catholic, I'm whatever. It's like, I don't want to be, doing these things. And it's like, but on the other hand, it didn't matter what you repeat. It doesn't matter what language it is. It doesn't matter what religion it is. The importance is while you're in that cycle of repetition, your mind can't go anywhere. So there is something to be said about the Sanskrit sounds and how their vibration, and this vibration actually kind of opens some channels and actually allows more energy to move. But nevertheless, these sounds of the Sanskrit are also sounds that we have in English. So, if it's cha or sa or whatever, or na or la, we're using these anyway. Yes. And so by using these sounds, we're actually kind of, turning on a radio, like getting a new frequency.
Yes.
Just flipping a switch.
There's that. So radios, for anybody who hasn't used them, you used to tune and you would get close and you could kind of hear something was coming in, but you'd have to fine tune it.
Exactly.
And the sounds help you fine tune that.
Exactly.
Well, and you're hitting so many points that I know people struggle with. Mm-hmm. Often when I start conversations with people about home yoga practice, they say, oh yeah, I love doing videos. And I say, it's not quite that. It's when you roll out your mat and you remember things that were meaningful or interesting or difficult or blissful.
Right.
And then you play with them in your own body.
Another piece is that I find, both Kiana and they were just like always, don't get focused only on the asana. The asana and the movement is just there to get kinks out of the body. So then when you sit to meditate, you're not hurting or you're not moving or you're not like feeling stuck in your body.
Wigglies.
So it's like, that is just a pathway. That's a pathway to something else. And you have to remember that it's a pathway to something else. And if you remember that it's a pathway, we have to focus on what is the else. And so I always thought that's very important. And I also thought, because also I had different types of teachers. One of them actually said, sometimes you need the japa, sometimes you need the asana, sometimes you need, these types of repetitions or the distractions of a guided meditation. But as your field gets clear, then you're okay in sitting in silence. Mm-hmm. And sitting in silence is not for everybody. Some people have to move. Some people have to dance. Some people have to chant. It depends who you are. And it's all good.
Is a container for all of these modalities, all of these pathways into prana, spirit.
And the thing is, like, I know my constitution, and I know, so by knowing who you are and knowing where your constitution is, it will determine how much life force you have, how much fire you have, how much immunity you have. Mm. So, I'm a kapha container, and so I have a lot of immunity, but not by nature, I don't have a lot of prana. But it's like, you can't tell. But I actually work on it. But my practice is to bring more of that. And also in the winter, my practice is also to bring more fire. So like the practice I have now is a little bit different from what I'll be doing probably in 2 months. Because in 2 months, I will be doing more of a practice that will have a little bit more fire in it. I might be actually sitting in front of the fire, meditating in front of the fire to actually increase my fire. Mm-hmm. And that fire will actually be able to grab more prana in order to have more immunity. So, you know, there's like this thing of like knowing your body and knowing what you need and kind of getting your practice in order for you to be able to fulfill your dharma. You know, I'm not totally focused on having to have a practice. I'm actually focused on being my best self. And how do I get there? The morning practice is important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and there's so many people who this idea of practicing on their own is new to them. Mm-hmm. So maybe you don't start with a morning practice. It absolutely is blissful and wonderful. But for instance, if you're a night shift worker, you might practice at first just when you can. You might wake up 15 minutes early to get 15 minutes of practice in. What I have found is, and I suspect it's similar with you, wherever you start, you do what you can do, what calls to you, and what is accessible from where you're at. And it will open up new possibilities for you. I used to think there was no way I could get up at 5:30 in the morning for a yoga practice. Mm-hmm. And well, let's say that happens more often than not every day. Uh-huh. I love a good lion too. Uh-huh. But it shifts, the practice shifts you. The first step is to put yourself in it.
Right. And as I say, when I was in Hong Kong, I had to just like wake up half an hour earlier in order to accommodate this new routine. Yeah. Now it's like I'm waking up at 5 or 5:30 anyway. So it's not anything that I have to put a clock to. It just happens. And it will happen. But it takes time. Yes. You know, you can't expect, I'm going to accomplish this in 1 year. There's no timeline. It's where you are and how your progress is unique and your movements are unique and your everything is, you know, individual. Yes. And that's why I always recommend, you know, you want to be guided in that individual journey. You know, it's like, it's true. You can, you know, do a video or you can do like listen to a meditation on tape or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily match your makeup. You know, it might be tailored to this large group, but it doesn't, that you might not be part of that large group
or you might have small elements that don't match that.
Exactly. So actually having a teacher to me is important. It's very important.
Well, thank you for that. I think that it's so important. The teaching aspect and the home practice aspect, I think fit together like the yin yang symbol, like the two fishes. The lead practice, even when it's tailored to you, that's still someone else occupying the teacher's seat. And the practice grows the teacher's seat within you.
Right, exactly. You know, the idea is you would want the teacher to actually help the divine within, not necessarily blind the divine within by their glitz and glamour. They should actually be wanting you to shine as much as you possibly can, and not cast a shadow on your value. So I find it's always a little bit tricky. A lot of people are consumed a little bit by the ego and also by the followership. And so they're not necessarily encouraging growth, but actually that's where you want to go. You want to go with somebody that actually allows you and teaches you how to grow.
Oh, that's beautiful. In a way, it's like parenting, right? and I haven't had this experience fully, but if you have a kid, you want them to fly,
right?
Exactly. Right, fly, be free.
Yes.
And I think that's the joy of teaching and mentorship.
Right, exactly.
And mentorship takes up a lot of your time right now.
Yes, well, so I have seen so many clients throughout the years, and between the apothecary and the teaching, it was becoming impossible to have good relationships because you have to be available for people as they're changing and shifting and not knowing what is good, what is not good, you know. And I decided I cannot do that anymore. I don't have the space, the time, and it's not right
for one-on-ones.
It's not good for the client. Because they wouldn't have access to me, and it's just like impossible. So actually, with my various teachings and different schools I've been teaching, we've actually formed new Ayurvedic practitioners. We've formed new clinical herbalists. So I am supporting those people. We have a call list. So if somebody says, "Oh, I'm in Florida and I need a practitioner," we have, you know, resources. Or if I'm in Texas or Oklahoma, wherever, we have a list of practitioners that we refer to. And these practitioners are excited. They're excited about, you know, the diet, the lifestyle, incorporating herbs. And I always tell them, don't use the herbs as a crutch. You know, there needs to be changes that need to occur in order for things to change. And it's not only about taking, I don't know, fennel or maca, you know, every day. You know, there are things that we can do in diet, lifestyle, with our spices, with our teas, that can actually help shift the terrain where we don't necessarily need these as much as we're abusing them, you know. So I will say I'm the stingiest of the apothecary people. Like, are you sure you want to be using this herb? Are you sure you really need it? You know? and part of it is that I'm also a grower. And I also, you know, so like the lemongrass we get, you know, passion flower from my garden, raspberry leaf, you know, horsetail. We have, you know, a lot of things that we grow. And then when you grow something and then you dry something and then you pulverize that something, you realize, wow, all of that became just this. But all of that absorbs so much energy. And now it's just like this. Now, this much has all of this energy. It had all of the vitamin X, it had all this water, it had all this love. And now you have just this much left. Yes. And so when somebody takes it, I want to make sure that one, they take it. Yeah. And two, that they're actually aware that they are getting from this tea or from this capsule or from this tincture the power that the plant has itself. Because, you know, this plant decided to live on the riverbank, or this plant decided that it would thrive in this area, and it did. And it, you know, it's basically an offering. And here you have this frequency that's being offered, and don't abuse it. You know, it's like we can use things, but we don't need to abuse them. And honestly, you know, the fact that they are here does not mean that we need to consume them. You know, it's like somebody might need it, but do you really need it every day, 365 days a year? Do you really need, you know, it's like probably not. You know, probably there should be some seasonal changes or some quantity changes or some shifts, you know, something should be different.
The seasons change. Yes. Our body, we're natural beings. Our bodies change. And so it makes sense that the plant allies that we seek will cycle as well. Right. And if you're just taking something as a constant in the background, that can also mask things that are happening in your own body, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I must say, you know, a lot of people are taking ashwagandha as, you know, an adaptogen for their stress. Well, you know, wait a minute, you know, do you really need ashwagandha for your stress, or do you really need to reduce your stress inputs? You know, you know. So it's like, you know, Yes, ashwagandha is here. We have it. You're more than welcome to get it. But maybe you should also look at, what is the input versus the output? How is your stress? Are you meditating? Are you having a practice? Are you just consumed by your work? Are you looking at the bigger picture? Are you realizing that whatever you're doing today, is going to affect what's happening tomorrow? But also, are you thinking, what am I going to need ashwagandha for the next, how many years do I have to live? Oh, let's say I have 30 years to live, 40 years to live, 50 years to live. Am I going to take ashwagandha every day for the next 30, 40, 50 years? That's outrageous. Please don't do that.
I was writing about this in terms of pranayama yesterday. A lot of people, so anxiety is alarm bells going off in our bodies, and sometimes they take off.
Right.
And they ring even when there's not something to alarm about. And so the pranayama, alternate nostril breath, is what I was thinking of specifically. Yeah. It can help us self-regulate.
Absolutely.
I hear so many people, though, who say, I tried alternate nostril breath once and it didn't work.
Well, you can't try it just once. But on the other hand, actually, even Natural Standard, which is a group of people that put research together, actually have breathing as one of the good alternatives, strong, they call it strong evidence that it actually helps reduce anxiety. But
once it's opened the window, then we have to step through and then look at, what are there things that trigger my anxiety that I could take care of in my reality, in my time-space world.
Absolutely.
One without the other is you're stomping on the brake and the gas at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's what taking ashwagandha is. It's like, oh, I'm stressed, I'm just going to take some ashwagandha. It's like, no, let's look at the root cause of the stress.
And it can open up that space for you.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
I could talk to you forever.
Right.
And you've talked a lot about the prana, the life force, but these are really living beings to you.
Oh, they are.
They are living beings, period.
Absolutely. There's this I can't tell you. It's like, so, we have mullein that I grow up in the Himalayas. We have lemongrass, but then we have lemongrass that I have in my garden. We have passion flower. Now we don't actually order passion flower anymore because my bush is over verdant. But basically, having this relationship with the plants is really important. And to me, it's like people need to understand that these are helpers. They're not just a medicine. This is a life form. This is a life form, and so
it's not a thing.
It's not a thing. It should be respected.
Yes. And I would encourage that for anybody who is looking at the components of their life. And this is from my prior life as a philosopher. A philosopher named Heidegger wrote a book called "What Is a Thing?" And you can hear that question like, a whole book on what is a thing, and I mean that's you're within your rights to think that. And what he was questioning is our thingizing. You can call it objectification of our lives, of our own bodies, of our experiences, and shifting out of relating to the objects in our life, our own bodies, our practices, our schedules as things, and treating them as expressions of prana, of life force, can be part of a profound shift in anybody's life.
Actually, this also takes from one of the 7 systems of philosophy. One of the 7 systems of philosophy does say that your routine is sacred. Your sacredness is not outside of you. It's inside of you. So having a daily routine, paying attention to things is making everything holy. And so that is very important, to not just think of things like things, but also, again, have this concept of, what is this in the frame of my life? What is this in the frame of where I'm going? And so should I be irritated by the driver? No, because that doesn't have significance in where I'm going in my life. So you kind of start muting some of these emotions that are just like on the surface.
Yeah, and their habits.
Yeah, their habits.
And yoga, asana, pranayama, dharana, dhyana, meditation changes our habits, our samskara, from the inside. So I could talk to you forever,
right?
But I am aware that both we're on their time, but also I want to make sure that we have a place to pick up from, and this seems like a perfect place.
And maybe next time, we can meet up in the library, where we have all of our charakas and all of our ancient texts, and that way people can have a better understanding of, this is not all woo-woo. It's like rooted in thousands of years of history.
Thousands of years. Yes. Oh, you're speaking my language.
All right.
So what would you tell someone, and we've already sort of covered this, but what would you tell someone who wants to begin their own yoga practice and feels maybe even overwhelmed?
Call Christine. Call Christine. Get yourself even a half an hour consult or something, and that way she can tailor something that is specific to you. You want to work with somebody. It's really, it's true. There are a lot of people doing TikTok and Instagram and whatever videos, but that's not tailored to you, and you might be harming yourself instead of doing good. So honestly, get a teacher.
And the teacher can help with that overwhelm.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So Sonia is an international mentor, teacher, and healer, and her company, Phytotherapy, can be reached at info@soniamasocco.com. It's info@soniamasocco.com. Your HYP tip for today: remember, your tea is alive and a gift. And this, if your jam is coffee, it applies to those beans as well. Your plants are alive and are gifts. Consider using your morning cuppa, and for me, it's always tea, for a meditation practice. From warming the water, choosing the cup, to the measuring of the component herbs, spices, the blend that you're given, or perhaps something you have on hand, inhaling during the steeping, all the way to the final sip. You might use an intention or a mantra. While preparing and even drinking your tea, you might bring your tea to your mat. That might be your way in when it's hard to find your way to your practice. Savor, smell, feel, and taste the first sip. Pause and savor after each taste. Where do you feel it on your tongue? Sit with that question as you sip your tea, with reverence for the tea, for your body, and for your experience. Notice how your state may have changed by the end of this everyday sacred meditation. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I am so grateful to have had this conversation with you. And I hope that it has planted a seed in people's thoughts.
That's a perfect place. We are glad you are here. Until next time, let us know about your home yoga practice and your home yoga practice questions. If you've received benefit, please subscribe, like, and share with other people that you think might benefit, so that we can help more people. I'll see you on the mat. Happy Yoga Day, and may every day be a yoga day.